Alan Stiles in for Mark Willard, and it's our pleasure, and I'll speak for Alan here, because we're both fans of our next guest, Cam Inman from the Mercury News, the Bay Area News Group. He's live in Vegas. Cam, what kind of trouble you getting into out there? Come on.
Okay, I just got done filing my stories in my hotel room, which overlooks that sphere thing. But so I'm looking at what the hotel offers me, and it says there is unlimited sauna and steam room access in the Hibiscus Spa, and then there's morning yoga. So it's going to be a wild time here in Vegas, I'm sure.
I get that, Cam, and you're a healthy man, and you definitely treat your body like a temple. So let's put that portion of the story aside, and I'll ask you again, Cam, because you and I are friends. What kind of trouble are you going to get into this evening?
Yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo is having us over for a pool party right now, so we can reminisce about those times he treasures with the 49ers. No, you probably didn't get my text or didn't explain it, but it was a big day for Big Jim and the 49ers and the Raiders. I mean, the practice was rather dull, and then afterward there was like the Garoppolo gratitude hour with everybody just raving about how great everything was, but you kind of sense this resentment that's just kind of searing under the surface that, he didn't get to keep his job, they didn't win a Super Bowl, and life moves on in the NFL.
Yeah, poor baby's only getting $70+ million to hang out in the desert. Was he the best quarterback on the field today, Cam?
I would say yes, because I think you got to also remember, though, like Brock Purdy is the best person for the 49ers offense at this point, I would say, and Brock's only been throwing for 2 weeks on that surgically repaired elbow, at least in 49er practices, right? So Brock's got some rust to knock off, but he is what Shanahan wants and has a longer-term upside, I guess, than Jimmy would at his point in his career right now. But I think everybody sensed that Garoppolo-Niner marriage was headed for divorce 2 years ago when we drafted Trey Lance, and either way, it was either going to be Trey Lance, and then it turned out to be Brock Purdy as his replacement. And Jimmy was what Jimmy does. He kind of gets rid of the ball quickly and was able to lead them down pretty efficiently down the field. I mean, the best session was this 2-minute drill, and Garoppolo let him down the field quick and found his tight end in the end zone against double coverage for a touchdown to cap it. So, I mean, it was that was great. Jimmy could do it, but again, it's training camp. It wasn't in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl, which is where the real legacy is made in 49ers history.
Yeah, Cam, and that leads me to my question. You see the numbers come out about the QBs, and fans are just, freaking out about what you see. How much should we take away from these joint practices? How close is it to real football for somebody to say, oh, yeah, that's a big deal, or no, that's not a big deal because it's a joint practice?
Yeah, joint practices, they're better than preseason games because you are unleashing your starters. I mean, the preseason games, the starters essentially are sitting. The Niners sat a couple of theirs today. Kittle's got an adductor strain. Dre Greenlaw popped his hand. I don't know if he popped it. He hurt his hamstring early in practice. It didn't sound like either of those are severe, but for the most part, you got starters out there, right? And so they're getting reps against a new defensive look that they don't see all the time when they're facing their own team in practice. And so Kyle Shanahan values those a lot more than preseason. And I think Kyle Shanahan may hate the preseason more than anybody, even more than the fans that have to pony up the regular season prices for tickets, because he just wants to get to the regular season. But right now, he wants to see, how Brock Purdy reacts to maybe Max Crosby coming off the edge at him. He wants to see how the Niners' new right tackle, Colton McKivitz, does against a Chandler Jones, see how the new DBs are doing. So you get a lot out of the joint practices, and there's only 2 of them. And, to be honest, today's was kind of boring because there weren't that many spectacular plays. There was an interception here or there on both sides. A touchdown pass here or there. There were no fights, which is fine. And that doesn't mean the intensity wasn't there, but it was just kind of okay, these guys are pros. They're working through the motions. And then they'll have tomorrow as well. They'll be back at it.
Cam Inman, Bay Area News Group here on 95.7 The Game. More joint practices tomorrow than the real quote-unquote game on Sunday, the preseason game. In terms of the quarterbacks today for the 49ers, how did they look, and did any of them look better than they had when they were down in Santa Clara against their own team?
Well, let's start with Brock Purdy because he is QB1. There's no doubt about it. He gets the first team reps, always has, and whatever the 10 practices he's had when he hasn't rested that elbow. And he looks good. He threw a nice touchdown pass to Christian McCaffrey in a red zone drill to kind of get things going. He had an so it wasn't perfect. Trey Lance, he got a lot of second-team reps, including they finished practice with this, 2-minute drill, right? And so Purdy did his, unable to cap it off with a touchdown. Trey Lance came in, same thing, but the fact is he got to do it. Sam Darnold did not get to do the 2-minute drill. They kind of still rotated second-string snaps early in practice. Sam didn't throw many, and he ran a couple, scrambled a couple times, and people may want to pan him for that, but it's they're playing with these reserves, and there may not be anything open. So it wasn't really impressive on either part. Trey Lance, he fumbled one exchange with a running back that they just signed last week. He fumbled a snap from a third or fourth string center. So it wasn't crisp on his part either. And I kind of went into this camp when it came to these quarterback kids with going, all right, it's Brock Purdy's job, right? QB1. So who's going to be QB2? And I still think it's Trey Lance unless he just absolutely tanks it in these next couple of weeks. And I still think that they could keep all three of the guys. So it really doesn't matter who's QB2 because you're going to have them in reserve, and it's going to be all Brock Purdy anyhow.
Cam, just to confirm, because we think you might have cut out for a quick second,
yeah.
Brock Purdy did throw an interception today. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
It wasn't anything crazy, and it was just it was earlier in practice. It wasn't in these a red zone or in the 2-minute drill. It was earlier in team drills.
Okay, just wanted to confirm there. Another injury that came out of this joint practice, Ray McCloud broke his wrist. He'll be out for a decent bit of time. Did you happen to see the injury happen?
I did, but it wasn't here. It happened earlier in the week at 49ers camp. And I remember when he got hurt, he was down, the trainer was looking at his hand and his wrist. But at the time, we didn't know how serious it was or if it was even an injury. It looked like maybe it was a cramp, and we were just at least I was observing it. And then so today, Kyle Shanahan he told us that it's a fractured wrist. Ray McCloud will have surgery tomorrow. Shanahan figures it's a 2-month recovery time. So that means he'll miss the first month of the season. And what does that mean for the 49ers? It means they need to find a new return specialist. And that could be Ronnie Bell, a rookie wide receiver out of Michigan. It could be Deshaun Jameson, an undrafted rookie, who's really impressed this camp as a cornerback. Those would be the two leaders in the clubhouse. I don't think they want to expose Brandon Ayuk back there. I don't think you dare put Christian McCaffrey back there. I call it a medieval act of trying to return a punt in the NFL. You got to be a little bit bonkers to do it, and you are very prone to getting blasted by somebody coming down the field. And then Shanahan joked a little bit about maybe Kyle Juszczyk would be able to do it because he's so versatile. And Kyle caught a punt last week on practice, and I caught on video, and Kyle was joking that he could do anything. So my guess is it's Ronnie Bell, and it's a great way to get on the team if you're a 7th-round pick, or else it's going to be Deshaun Jameson, a guy that's really impressed in camp so far as an undrafted rookie corner.
Any thoughts of it being Danny Gray, a guy who maybe will step up and take Ray's snaps at wide receiver, and might he be in the mix to be a returner for this team?
Mr. Dibley, I asked that same question to Coach Kyle Shanahan.
Look at me and you, Cam.
And he looked at us like I was crazy because he said Danny Gray would fit as a kick returner because of his speed, to which I said they still return kicks under these new rules, and he kind of got a chuckle out of that because the NFL's basically eradicated kickoff returns. And then he said, to be on the punt return, you have to have great hands, which means Danny Gray's hands have not been great in camp, which we've all seen. He's got great speed. He's just inconsistent with the hands. And until he proves that he can do that, I don't know if you deploy him back there. I mean, remember, what was it, 2010 with Judd Hayne out of Australia, and they put him back there to return punts and have this Aussie wonder. And he did great in the preseason, and then they put him in, I think it was the Packers or somebody, and he fumbled right out the gate on Monday Night Football or something under the lights, and that was the end of Jared Hayne. So it's a tough job. So it's something that we shouldn't minimize because, I don't want to bring it up, but a muff punt here could ruin an NFC Championship game, as 49er learned about 10 years ago or 12 years ago. So, yeah.
Yeah, too soon. Kyle Williams somewhere is rolling.
Love Kyle Williams, a really nice kid, a stand-up guy.
No, great guy, stand-up guy, but I believe he muffed 2 punts there, and he's somewhere rolling over in his bed.
You know what? He was an emergency replacement for Ted Ginn Jr. So
good call.
And the ball was slick. There was a lot of excuses I can have.
Thank you.
Because Yeah.
Yeah, nothing like the old slick ball excuse. Cam Inman here on 95.7 The Game from the Bay Area News Group. How does this affect cut down day potentially? Do they end up keeping an extra receiver, or do they just go with what they have and hope that one of these young guys can actually catch a punt?
I mean, see, and it's kind of funny because I brought that up about we do these 53-man roster projections, right? But then an injury can make everything askew. So, right, all of a sudden, okay, now you're going to have a different return specialist because you figure McCloud's going to start on, well, he can't start on injured reserve if he's going to go into the season, if they're going to keep him, right? So they got to carry him on the roster through the opening cuts, and then they have to replace him, yeah. So, but you know what? The other thing with Ray McCloud is he was kind of their number 4, number 5 wide receiver, if you want to count Christian McCaffrey as one. And McCaffrey's a guy that will work out of the slot, which anybody could, but McCaffrey's really good at it. So you're going to replace that receiving void with him. So if they don't want to carry the extra receiver, is kind of what I'm getting at, is that's where you could go with a cornerback, such as Deshaun Jameson, if they really want to try. If they want to trust an undrafted rookie who I think had about 20 punt returns in college, so it's not like he's a novice, but it's going to be something worth watching. And I guess that's a reason to watch preseason games starting Sunday at Allegiant Stadium here in Las Vegas.
Cam, it might be too early, but how serious does the Kittle injury seem to be? Something that everyone should worry about, or maybe closer to the precautionary side of things?
If I didn't see George Kittle on the field today watching, like he was wearing just like a T-shirt and shorts, and he had a football in his hand, and he seemed chipper, like talking to teammates like he usually is. If I didn't see him and they had kept him back in the Bay Area to do rehab, then I would be concerned. He was out here today, watching, talking to guys, encouraging guys. So I'd imagine it's just they're being very precautious. So remember last year, he opened the season missing the first 2 games because of a groin injury. And you hope it's not the same thing, or it could flare up and be as big, because I think he was out about a month with it when he heard it last. Actually, maybe this was 2 weeks, because remember, he heard it in a bonus practice, like a Monday of week 1 as they started practice. And that was it for him for a couple of weeks. And that was when Trey Lance started, and that was the end of Trey Lance. And then Jimmy started, and Kittle came back, and then Kittle had 11 touchdown catches with Purdy. So the Kittle-Purdy connection was very important. So you got to get him healthy and just get that ready. He has a month to get ready for the season opener. He'll be ready.
And he'll be ready, and Trey Lance hopefully will be ready for Sunday. Do you anticipate that he gets the start for Sunday's real, quote-unquote, preseason game? And does it even matter who Kyle Shanahan puts out there first?
Well, I think it does matter, because what a signal that would be if he is not the preseason opener and he plays, right? Like Brock Purdy will not play. Shanahan alluded to it, saying he doubts he plays, and it would be stunning if he does. So I would absolutely think it's Trey Lance's. He gets the first. Honestly, if you want to do it politically correct, you have Trey Lance be the starter this game. Sam Darnold can start the next game, and then Brandon Allen can start the meaningless 3rd preseason game. And make him go most of the way, I guess. Or you can do a little bit of Lance, a little bit of Darnold, because you can kind of say it's still a close competition if you want. So, but I think both of those quarterbacks, Lance and Darnold, have a lot to prove in the preseason, which is saying a lot considering they were number 3 overall draft picks.
Cam, just one last question for those that are keeping up with you as well. What are you keeping an eye on for the rest of the weekend with the joint practices heading into the first preseason game?
Do I hit on a 16? No, I'm just kidding.
That would be no.
What am I keeping? Well, I'm going to keep an eye on the return specialist, the quarterbacks always. I will tell you what, and I don't want to complain about this, because I think it's just when the media complains about the viewing accommodations and a closed practice, where any fan would love to be there. I understand that. I don't want to take it for granted, but the Raiders have 3 practice fields, and they limit the media to one side of the field. You're not allowed to get, so they were practicing on the 3rd field over, which is, 120 yards away. But the pro and veteran that I am, I brought binoculars and was able to see stuff on the far field. So it is challenging. And there's bodies all over the place, because you got about 180 guys out there, maybe 200 with staff and stuff. So it's a little bit hard to find, but I just want to see people make plays. I mean, they're there weren't that many plays made today. It was kind of boring. Kind of went through the motions. Whereas a year ago they were in Minnesota, and Brock Purdy started to emerge as a backup quarterback option, and on the other field, a guy named Justin Jefferson was roasting the Niners cornerbacks, and you're like, wow, okay. But today, Devontae Adams didn't really do much against the Niners, so I want to see maybe how they covered Devontae Adams tomorrow.
Love it, Cam. Enjoy yourself. Apply copious amounts of sunscreen. Make sure you hydrate tonight, and make sure you play the hard ways when you're throwing those dice on craps.
Oh, no craps. Cam doesn't do craps. But thank you. Thanks for the advice.
Of course, Cam. Cam Inman, Bay Area News Group, friend of the program, one of the good guys.